Now, for many, the sound of a computer firing up will be, in essence, a terrible litany of oaths followed by crying, and that's just Findon Vicarage. But it was not ever thus. The first generation of home computers thrummed invitingly as current coursed round rudimentary circuits, and the information age took its first breath and mewled. Well, so it sounded to a listener of ours whose Sinclair ZX Spectrum provides this week's sound sculpture. Confusingly, his name is also Richard Coles. Keep up.
The sound that I love is the noise that a Sinclair ZX Spectrum makes when it loads a program from cassette. And as a child, that noise meant that a game was coming. I'm 31 now, and the computer was in the house in 1983, when I was about 18 months old. And my grandmother tells me that when she used to babysit for us, I'd be in the bedroom, and my brother would want to play a game on the computer. And when the game would be loading, the door from the hallway into our living room would come open a crack. And my head would appear around with the words, puta. That noise drew me like a moth to the flame. As the game would load, there'd be a brightly coloured border which would change very fast around the edge of the screen. And there would be this moment of wonder where this picture would start to appear very slowly. First of all, just in monochrome. There would be this, and that would be the colour coming on. The colour would come on from right to left. And you've probably been sitting there at this moment for about 2 minutes. When you got a new game, the first thing was, wow, what's the loading picture going to be like? And sometimes they were more exciting than the games themselves. Today, software loads instantly, and we get frustrated when things don't come through, emails don't come through immediately. Whilst I'd actually regard that as progress, there remains for me something about Christmas Eve when it comes to the loading of a Spectrum. You're about to get something that's probably a little bit disappointing when it arrives, but the anticipation is very exciting. I've got a piece of software that I run on my Mac called 4's, and what 4's does is emulate, let your Mac pretend that it is a ZX Spectrum. So you can run with real speed the old software, just like when I was a child. If anything, it's too good because you're looking at it on a high quality display. And when I used to look at my Spectrum years ago, it was on a little 14-inch portable black and white that you had to tune in with a dial. So I'm about to load a game into my Spectrum emulator, and it's one of my favourite games from when I was a child. It's called Jetpack. What the sounds literally are, it's the individual bits of code, the ones and zeros, that digital information being loaded into memory. To the human ear, it's just this screech, if you like, and some people would describe it as a screech. The classic ZX Spectrum has keys which feel like dead flesh that are made out of rubber, no spacebar, some coloured lines on the right-hand side in the corner, which is the Spectrum, and it has a few ports on the back, which normally things fall out of. I had a ZX Spectrum right up until 1998, when I using it as my main computer, long after it had been laid aside by other people. My friends were quite surprised that I kept using my Spectrum so long and remaining really very loyal to it. But there's a wide community, even now, of people who remain very loyal. There's something quintessentially British about that computer in terms of the love that it inspires. People call themselves Spec Chums because they would class themselves as part of this Spectrum community. And it continued to teach me things about programming and electronics and mathematics long after the game value had laid aside. And by that stage, that is what I was interested in. And it instilled in me a love in computing that I have to today. I work today as a teacher of maths and computer science. Dare I say it, there is a deeper relationship that some people have with the technology they use other than it just being a computer. My Spectrums, they were a part of my life, and there'll be people that will be listening to this thinking, my goodness, what a saddo, part of his life, a computer. But there would be many others that would feel the same way. I do hope that those that I teach computing to will find a piece of technology that they do take really fond memories with them through their life, because it introduced them to the world of electronics and computing, and I don't see what's wrong with that.
That was Richard Coles, no relation with his sound sculpture. Trevor Nelson is our studio guest this morning. Trevor